Welcome to Sampstra Games, the place to find new strategy games, and welcome to my All Objectives Complete guide on Market Garden. And this is a very special episode because not only am I going to give you my tips, but I'm going to give you the tips from the man himself, the master designer in Unity of Command 2. So he's going to give you, I'm going to tell you his tips for how to do Market Garden. First of all, and I didn't know that, I think it's really interesting, apparently it's nearly impossible to take all the bonus objectives if you play it as a standalone scenario, but it is definitely possible if you play it in the campaign. There are a couple of things that you're going to need to have in order to make it work. First of all your divisions should have 3 specialists. If you don't have them and you have prestige, just add the specialist. Some of your divisions must be elite. And you need to have 1 empty card slot. And I only have 1 empty card slot because I made a really big mistake at the start of this conference. So yeah. So I'm going to show it to you how to do it with only 1 card slot. If you have more than 1, it's going to be definitely easier. Now, some other tips that he gave are, if you have a very strong defending unit, it can often scare off the AI from even trying to attack. So this is something that we have been using in a lot of other maps. I don't know if I've explicitly said, but it's a pretty good strategy to essentially just scare off the enemy because the AI, especially on lower difficulties, it just doesn't want to hurt itself for no reason. Another good tip is using zone of controls to prevent the AI from rotating its units when attacking you. This is really interesting, and I'll admit I never really thought about this before. Essentially, not only you want to kind of keep a strong unit on a hex, but you want to utilize the zone of controls to make sure that if they do attack your unit on the hex, they can only attack from one direction, for example, and not from multiple. So this is very, very powerful tip. Another interesting tip, put some specialists into your HQ force pool during battle traps so that you can later on put them to places you need. Another really cool tip, I didn't really think about it in advance, but it's a smart idea. So if you are starting at the map, you don't need to use your HQ for anything. You know, just sort of reorganize them from some of the other units, recycle them, so that you can buy the new ones. And then you're going to have leftover in the recycling, and then you can use that upon the following turns and put it on a unit. Again, another amazing tip. A couple other things you mentioned that would be helpful and would make Market Garden easier are extra airstrike, more card slot like I said, and HQ with supply dump ability. That'd be really, really good in this particular mission. I don't have that, so I'll be showing you around without it, but any of those things, especially more cards, and this would be really, really helpful. Alright, I think that's all from the designer tips. Now let's jump into the tactics window so I can tell you the strategy, how to do it. Welcome to the tactics window of Market Garden. So first thing you gotta do is you gotta take over Eindhoven. Now you do have till turn 2. I would highly recommend that you do it on turn 1. However, if you don't, it's not a game over thing. You can still get it on turn 2. Alright, so you're gonna be pushing here with your unit forward. Then you're gonna do different combinations of your tank and probably 1 more infantry, ideally this one, and to take over Eindhoven and to step onto it and make sure that you stand there. So that's Eindhoven on first one. Then you're going to need to use your air unit. So first of all, you're going to grab your first unit and you're going to place it on Grassbeak Heights. This is going to give you a card that will give you air supply. Next, you're going to take another one of these planes, doesn't matter which one. For example, this one, I'm going to place it on Oosterbeek. Oosterbeek is going to give you a power drop unit. Now, you can place the power drop unit on Arnhem, but I'd recommend that instead you place it somewhere near Eindhoven, somewhere sort of in this general area. And then you're going to use your last plane and place it on Arnhem. It is very important that you do not let the enemy place their tank on Arnhem. You need to have something standing on Arnhem. If you don't, it's going to be quite difficult for you to take over that place because it's going to be really hard to destroy them from taking it. So that's why I would highly recommend that you do that. So at the end of first turn, you're going to own Eindhoven, Arnhem, Oosterbeek, and Groesbeek Heights. All right? Now, the unit that you place on near Eindhoven, you might ask, why not place it on Nijmegen? You could do that as well. I have found that it's actually easier if the unit is in this general area because it's going to help you fight off and you don't need to worry so much about Nijmegen, but it's definitely an option to take Nijmegen off immediately. Alright, so that's the end of the first turn. On the second turn, what you're going to do is you want to kind of push forward here in this general area. Ideally, you want to take over this supply hub, because if you don't, then at the start of turn 3. The enemy will get reinforcements. I think it's like a tank here. Also, one of the hexes over here also get reinforcements. So you want to control as many of these hexes as possible. You don't necessarily need to have a unit there, but it's better if you do. You're going to be pushing forwards towards Grave and Nijmegen. Now, the 2 units that you have here, the one on Arnhem needs to stand where it is, that's very important. The one on Oosterbeek could move away, but I would recommend that you don't, because otherwise the enemy is going to block you here, and it's going to be really difficult for you to kind of move over this river, because the only way then is going to be either through here, so it's going to be really rough. So you essentially want to stand on Arnhem and Oosterbeek, use your airstrikes and other things to try to take over Dela, because if you can take it over, you have an NIR unit, then you can step there. In the playthrough I'm going to be showing you, I actually don't manage to take Delenn for a very long time, but sometimes you can get lucky and you can get it very quickly. Another thing to keep in mind here is that Grave, Oosterbeek and Grosbeek Heights, so these 3, you do not need to hold them. You need to take them, but then, for example, you could abandon this position and move the unit onto Nijmegen if you wanted to. You do not need to control it. Around the end of turn 2, you should own these 4 and probably take Grave. At latest, take Grave on turn 3. And you're going to be pushing towards Nijmegen so that in turn 3 you can take it. On turn 3, you'll take over Nijmegen as well. Then you're going to need to push over the water. You can either push through here or push through here, ideally through both, but depending on how your run goes, you are going to move through one or the other. Make sure, as always, keep making sure that the unit on Arnhem is really, really strong. Make sure that you can resupply it, or you just switch it for other units if you can, to make sure that you control it. Then you want to surround Delenn as much as possible. Also, when you're moving in this general area, try to utilize the fact that if you take over a supply hub, it will not only resupply the unit that took over the supply hubs, but other units that are out of supply and they're in your area of control. So it can often be a good idea to wait, don't take the supply hub too early, but instead wait till you have units in the range that are out of supply and only then step onto the supply hub so that you can have a lot of your units in supply. Also make sure that you're going to move your HQ forward so that you can resupply some of your units here. So like I said, it's after turn 3. At that point you want to push everything forward and start attack Delenn and then Zabrze, which is kind of in this area. Here I want to mention that it's really important that if you're taking over Delenn, Zabrze or Arnhem, the units that take over the tile are really strong. So like 5 steps, all specialists. If you don't do that, if you take, for example, a power drop that only have 3 steps, the problem is that that even if you have all the objectives at the end of your turn, the enemy still has his own turn, and then it's going to be easy for him to kill the 3 steps unit that you have there. So you're not going to win. You're still going to lose, even though we had all of the objectives, because it needs to be at the end of the enemy turn, not at the end of your turn. This has happened to me many times. So it's really better to sort of take your time and make sure that when you take the objectives, you're going to have strong enough units so the enemy is unable to take it back from you. Then they'll sort of try to rush in, use power drops, go crazy, take it under turn 3, but then the enemy is going to kill your unit there anyway and you're going to lose. Alright, I think that's all for the tips, and now let me show you how it's done. Welcome back from the tactics window, and let's just do it. Alright, first thing you gotta do is you gotta do unit preparation. It's really important here that you put a lot of artillery and engineers on all of your units, especially the first unit that I'm working on right now. It needs to be very strong because we need to get rid of the unit in front of Eindhoven so that we can get there with our other units and get it ideally on turn 1. Especially on higher difficulties, it has to be on turn 1. On normal, it could be on turn 2, but it's still a good idea if you can get it as soon as possible. In general, you wanna recycle some of the other specialists so that you can make sure that you put your most powerful artillery and engineers onto the units that you need. You can also here use the designer trick like I mentioned previously, where you recycle even more specialists so that you can have some left over, which is what I did right now. Next up, I'm adding a supply hub. This is not necessary, but you might do it at some point later. There's no other place where you can place the supply hub, so I just decided to do it at the start. Now here we gotta hit the unit before Eindhoven and move there with some of our other units so that we can finally attack Eindhoven and take it. It's ideal if you take it on the first turn. If you don't, it's still doable, but I highly recommend that you take it on the first turn. Next up, I'm just looking where I can get like 0 to 0-3 attacks so that I could attack the enemies. And then I'm attacking this unit just above the river with suppressive fire and then with this other unit. Okay, next up I am starting to place my airborne units. First thing you want to do is you gotta move your unit on Grobeek's Heights. This is going to give you an air supply card. Next, you're gonna move your units on to Oosterbeek, however that's called, and this is going to give you Paardorp. Now we're gonna place this Paardorp unit somewhere near Eindhoven so that we can sort of start fighting here from the bottom. Then I'm adding another airborne unit onto Arnhem. And after that, I'm using my airstrike on the people in Dylan. Unfortunately, it didn't do any damage, so I wasn't able to kill off the unit on Dylan. Sometimes you get lucky though, and you can do some stuff. Next, I'm just using a feint attack. It's not really important, it's just because I had the points. Then I'm moving my HQ. Notice that I'm not moving it on Eindhoven. This is actually pretty important because you might lose Eindhoven depending on how the enemy decides to behave. And if you do lose it, then losing the HQ there would be a pretty big problem. So you want to make sure that you don't place it there just in case you lose that. Alright, the enemy has done some attack on Eindhoven but didn't take it over, which is very good for us. Now, I'm going to try to destroy the unit that's on the supply hub on the right bottom. And the reason for that is because on the third turn, which is the turn right after this, the enemy will get new reinforcements and they will place them on that hex. They will get a new tank that's really, really strong. So especially if you're playing on normal, you're gonna have a little bit more time. So I'd highly recommend that you try to stand on the supply hub there, because that is when the new tank is going to show up. You only need to have zone of control there. You don't technically need to stand there, but if you don't have anything there, then the enemy can just move there, take the zone of control, and then place their units there if you'd like. Now next steps, I'm trying to decide how could I move with some of my other units to do as much damage as possible. And I'm also, you know, looking at where can I have like 0-2 and these kind of odds. Now here I'm still trying to figure out how could I move towards the supply. Then I figured out, okay, if I use this tank, I can actually do that. So I've done that, and I've moved back and forth. It's going to be important that I move back with the tank onto the position so that the enemy cannot spawn their own tank over there. They also spawn enemies on the other side of the supply line where their unit is standing right now. So ideally you want to move over there as well. I wasn't able to, so I thought it was more important. That's just infantry on the other side. This is the tank, so the tank is more important. Also keep in mind that you need to stand and protect Eindhoven because you have to take it on turn 2, which is already surpassed, so if the enemy takes it from you, even from a single turn, you already lose. Now at this point I've gotten a power drop unit, but I cannot use it because my cards are filled, which is really bad for me. So if you can use it, definitely use it because it's gonna make the scenario a lot easier for you. But yeah, I'm gonna still try with my airstrikes on the land. Still, I don't do any damage, so I'm kind of stuck there. Sometimes you can get lucky and hit the people on the land, and then you have a unit that you can place somewhere, an round unit, and you could place it on the land if you own that hex. But in this particular playthrough, I didn't really get lucky with that, so I'm kind of like stuck. Make sure down with the units near Eindhoven that you're utilizing the zone of control to ensure that the enemy cannot take your supply hubs, because if that happens, that's pretty bad for you. I'm doing some attacks on Nijmegen, but I'm not taking it over just yet. We've got one more turn for that, so we'll do that next turn. At the end of the turn, the game is actually telling me like, hey, you have a fire drop reward that you haven't used, but I can't unfortunately use it because, like I said, my cards are filled up, so not great. The enemies do step in, but luckily they don't destroy my area that I own, so I still can sort of supply the units up there at least a little bit, which is quite good for us, but yeah. But they do try. Attacking my unit on Arnhem. If you use Arnhem and the enemy places their tank on Arnhem, it's... I don't want to say it's game over, but it's almost game over. So you really want to make sure that that does not happen to you, because that's really, really bad. Alright. Next up, I'm trying to move towards this supply hub now. Because I've taken it over, all of the other units, including the one on Arnhem, got resupplied, which is really important because then it's strong now and it's going to repel, like be able to hold off the enemy, which again, very important. Eventually, you want to place your own armor there or a tank, but my tanks are currently nowhere near that, so we can't really do it just yet. Yeah, I'm trying to kill off the enemy and also just increase the zone that I own as much as possible so that any enemy reinforcements cannot be placed. And you also want to start moving towards Arnhem and the other units, especially with your tanks, but generally with everything, so that you can do some more fights over there, because that's where the enemy is really, really strong, and if you don't support yourself there, you could get in trouble. So I'm sort of slowly trying to gain a bit of an advantage, kill off as many enemies as I can, and slowly move. Now we do have Nijmegen now, but I don't have a unit standing there, which is pretty risky, so we gotta have to change that before we end the turn, because otherwise the enemy could just step there and be game over, because we wouldn't get it fast enough, so keep that in mind. I'm trying to figure out, could I use any other unit to move to Nijmegen, but I can't, so eventually I will take the unit between Nijmegen and Arnhem and move it over there, which is, like, you would rather move the unit elsewhere, but you have to. Then I'm adding a bridge, because I've noticed that even though my tanks cannot move to Nijmegen because of the unit that is blocking the bridge towards Nijmegen, so I've decided I'm going to add my own bridge so that I could move there a little bit easier with my infantry and other units, and now I'm going to step on Nijmegen. Alright, we took control of Nijmegen. And I've decided that using the airstrike on the land seems a bit pointless now. Instead, I want to kill the unit near Nijmegen so that I don't have to worry about that placement so much. And then I'm just, resupplying wherever I can because I have the points for it. Having the oversupply dump ability here would be really good, because once you end sort of your movement with your unit, you could oversupply the unit, and then next turn it wouldn't be out of supply, which would be really nice. Especially considering that even on the place that you do have supply, you only have like 50 or 60% chance, so it's nothing too high. I restore the unit near Nijmegen so that we can create a better connection. This was a bit of a mistake because the unit retreated into the place where I actually wanted to go, but it's not that big of a deal. At this point we need to start pushing towards the lane and Zibberzi. So we're gonna try to get as many units there. Always make sure that you keep a really, really strong unit on Arnhem, because the enemy tends to rotate around a lot, and if you'll have maybe just like 3 steps in it or something like that, the enemy will take it over, and that will essentially be game over for you. So the goal is to get a tank to Arnhem, but as you can see, it's not that easy. And you also want to make sure that you push the other enemy units forward and that you don't kind of open yourself up in the back, because if you do that, they can out of supply, which could be a really big problem, or they can just step on some of your other objective, which again, like Eindhoven, which again would be game over. So make sure that you want to push towards the lane, but you don't want to push too quickly, because that's the thing. Another thing that's pretty common on this map and happened to me a lot was, okay, finally we get a tank on Arnhem, was that you have all the objectives, but because the enemy has one more turn, in order to get to all the objectives, you maybe pushed only 3-step strong unit on something, while the enemy tends to kill it and then take it away, so you lose even though you had all the objectives on one turn. This happened to me like at least 5 times in the test round. So really make sure that if you are taking over all the objectives, that you're using it with strong units. And don't try to hurry. Don't try to say, okay, I'm just going to place this unit there on Arnhem, just going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. This is really where you have to kind of watch out with what unit you take control of what. Still, I wasn't able to take control of Deline, so I still can't place the unit that I have kind of ready, but that's alright. We have 2 more turns for Deline, so we don't really need to hurry. I do not need to have anybody on Nijmegen and Eindhoven because of the way I placed my units. They actually cannot get there due to zone of control and things like that. So that's pretty good to know, but the units that I have, like Arnhem, always kind of make sure that I have a really strong unit over there. Here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, first of all, I need to sort of surround Delenn with my unit so that I would be able to hit it next turn. And also I want to make sure that I surround Arnhem with a lot of my units so that even if the enemy destroys some of my units, they still won't be able to get Arnhem, that they can only maybe get close to it, but won't be able to actually hit me there. I was thinking whether I'm gonna move the tank away, but again I realized that I don't know if the infantry would be strong enough. You need to pick a really strong unit to place there if we're gonna do it, to make sure that again the enemy will not destroy things. Now we're gonna keep trying for the land, because we only have 1 more turn after this to take it, so we gotta be ready for this. Alright, then I'm just gonna kill off some of the units over here near Eindhoven. Well, near-ish. I'm repairing this bridge so that I can move to it without such a high cost of movement, so that I can move there and move further away. Next up here I'm going to use set piece attack, so just to kind of destroy, or maybe not destroy necessarily, but hurt this unit. And unfortunately with the retreat it didn't quite work out the way that I was hoping for, so actually I have to move the unit out of Nijmegen just to kind of block it so they don't take over my HQ or anything like that. I want to make sure that you're kind of blocking it, which works. It's just, yeah. If they didn't retreat it would have been better for us, but it is what it is. Alright, that's it for a turn. Now, because of the zone of control, they weren't able to move any further towards Eindhoven. They could just do the 1 step, that's it. And the enemy is gonna hit me quite a bit. This is why it's a good idea, like I said, have a unit before Arnhem, so they have to fight that first. Otherwise, if they did all of these attack at a unit on Arnhem, it would probably lose Arnhem already. But since I had that other units, they're kind of standing, protecting it, we survived. Also, because they killed my paradrop unit, I now have a space for my cards. It's a little late for that, but yeah. Again, we gotta keep going on Delenn. Delenn, we need to take Delenn this turn. So we're gonna start attacking it. Make sure that we can step somebody inside. Again, make sure that you step with someone strong. I know I keep repeating it, but like I said, it really happens often in this map that you do own all the objectives, but because you didn't check that the unit that is standing on the objective is strong enough, you lose because they take it away from you next turn. So that's why I kind of keep repeating it. think about what unit is stepping on the objective. I haven't actually encountered this in any of the previous maps. Usually it's just like, if you get it, and you're fine. But because this map is so small and the enemies are so close to you, it really matters, and quite often they can destroy you, even if you have like 4 steps or something, because they just like rotate and hit you over and over. Here we gotta get rid of this enemy unit. We're gonna use suppressive fire. And then we should be, and then we can kill it off with the other units. I didn't want to use set piece attack because I couldn't move away after, and I do kind of want to move away, so I was like, let's use suppressive fire instead. Then we're gonna move again closer with all of our units, as close as possible towards Arnhem. Now here, what I could have done is I could have switched the unit on Arnhem, but I was too worried about the enemy being able to destroy the other unit, so I was like, I'm not gonna do it, even though it would have given me 1 more attack. I was like, I think it's too risky to do that. Especially even instead of Arnhem, we should actually switch the unit on Dylan, but still, it would still be too much of a risk, I believe, so. So instead I just resupply the unit on Arnhem to make sure it remains strong. The unit on Dylan is pretty strong as well, and then later on we just need to get something on the following turn to Zubarzi, or the turn after that, depending on how it goes. I mean, I know how it goes, but I'm doing these voiceovers post, not during. Are they gonna hit the people on Dylan? But they only got 1 hit, so it's pretty weak. This probably would have survived even with 3 or 4 steps, but if we had so little steps, they probably would have hit us a bit more. So, yeah. And then we're gonna kill off that unit over there and move towards Zaborzi. Right, now we're on Zaborzi. Again, Zaborzi is a really strong unit on it, armor with all 6 steps, so we don't have to worry about them hurting. Still, to be sure, I'm again going to try to press as many units close to them, hopefully, to block off the enemy and to try to do as much damage as well. As much damage as I can as well. Set piece attack because I can, because I'm standing on Arnhem, so why not? And again, just place as many units in the way as possible. Just the same strategy, essentially. I have an airstrike, so why not use it, right? And I could hit the tank, so I did that as well. I took over their HQ, that didn't really matter, especially not at this point in the game, but yeah. Why not do it if you can do it? Finally, I'm going to actually take the unit, in or out unit, and place it on Deline. But yeah, at this point it probably wouldn't matter because they can't actually get there because of the other sacrificial units that I have around. But I figured I might as well do it because it's kind of late, right? Also, I wanted to check like whether the unit is strong, so I want to make sure that I didn't accidentally place a weak unit. But the unit's actually really, really strong. It has specialists, it has a lot of steps, so I didn't have to worry about it. Alright, and that's it. This is how you win Market Garden. As you can see now, all objectives complete. Let me know if you enjoyed this guide and how you defeated Market Garden. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!